Now, on our next story, I'm going to go and talk about a recent animated feature. Not one that is brand new, but still, it's not an old movie either. This one actually came out back in 2022, so somewhere around near the end of the pandemic. It wasn't at the point where people were free from the pandemic, that we were able to finally get out and things could go back to normal, but things were definitely getting better, especially after most people did take the vaccine to fight against COVID. But anyways, back to the movie itself. Well, let's just say this wasn't a liked movie per se, especially when technically it is a complicated spin-off, if you will. And there have been a lot of complaints about it. And unfortunately, while the reviews and the audience reception, I won't say they were great, but they were decent somewhat, it did unfortunately become a box office bomb. And trust me, it's not because of COVID. It's not because of the pandemic or anything like that. It's because of all these complications and that the word of mouth wasn't necessarily the greatest at the time. But there was one argument against it, one piece of controversy that really stood out about the movie, and it was probably the dumbest discussion, or you know what, not probably, it is the dumbest discussion about the feature, where even the people who hate the movie would say that, no, that has nothing to do with what is wrong with the movie. So from there, you would see a lot of conservatives going crazy about it, but then after time has passed, people would go and move on. People would focus on other things to go and talk about, and well, what happened to the film? Well, it has happened. Now, what I did not expect, however, was that suddenly it would make a comeback because of Snoop Dogg. Yes, Snoop Dogg decided to go and say his piece about the 2022 Pixar feature, Lightyear. And yes, his complaints about it are the same stupid kind that you hear people talking about back in 2022. It's about that same-sex couple. Now, some people would go and say that it's because of the same-sex kiss, but no, in Snoop Dogg's case, it's not necessarily the kiss itself. It's actually in regards to something else. It's more in terms of the factor that it is a same-sex couple existing in an animated feature. Now, this actually occurred mainly because of the fact that he was appearing in an episode of the podcast It's Giving. And there was at one point that he talked about Lightyear because he brought his grandson to go and check it out in theaters back in 2022. And this is what he has to say. And by the way, I just want to go and say right now, I do apologize for the use of foul language, but this is just Snoop Dogg's words, not mine. So I'm just reading what he has to say, just to give you the proper context of it. So he says right here, reading from my source on Entertainment Weekly, they're like, she had a baby with another woman. Well, my grandson in the middle of the movie is like, Papa Snoop, how's she have a baby with a woman? She's a woman. Snoop recalled thinking, oh shit, I didn't come in for this shit. I just came to watch the goddamn movie. But his grandson pressed on and asked, they just said she and she had a baby. They're both women. How does she have a baby? The rapper reflected that the experience fucked me up. I'm like scared to go to the movies. Y'all throwing me in the middle of shit that I don't have an answer for. So basically, he and his little grandson was watching Lightyear, and the grandson was asking questions, not necessarily understanding how the characters Alicia and Kiko Hawthorne actually end up having a kid in Lightyear. So somehow that seems to not necessarily comprehend the kid's mind. Like the kid was just asking questions, and Snoop was terrified in that scenario because he didn't know how to go and answer him in that situation. So, of course, as you could probably imagine, there was a lot of backlash, not necessarily to Lightyear, but this time to the comments of Snoop Dogg. In fact, the person who is said to be responsible for the same-sex couple in Lightyear, specifically screenwriter Lauren Gunderson, actually stepped in to actually comment about the matter, and she actually made a post on her social media, specifically on Instagram, in which I will go and read you right here. So, I created the Lightyear Lesbians. In 2018, I was a writer at Pixar. Such a cool place. Grateful to work there. Learned a ton from kind and impressive creatives. As we wrote early versions of what became Lightyear, a key character needed a partner, and it was so natural to write she instead of he. As small as that detail is in the film, I knew the representational effect it could have. Small line, big deal. I was elated that they kept it. I am proud of it. To infinity, love is love. Woo, excuse me. Woo, boy. Okay, there we go. Just some gas that wanted to go and leave. But anyways, yes, love is love. So that was her response, and she pretty much completely owned up to the fact that she did this, that she was the one who actually, put out the fact that there was indeed a lesbian couple in Lightyear. And one thing that I do want to go and immediately state, because there was a recent turn of events, or at least I thought it was a turn of events, was the fact that Snoop Dogg allegedly stepped back from his comments, in which he actually did go and put out a post where he apologized about that matter, in which he says, reading from my source here on Deadline, it states, I was just caught off guard and had no answer for my grandsons. All my gay friends know what's up. They've been calling me with love. My bad for not knowing the answer for a 6-year-old. Teach me how to learn. I'm not perfect. However, the catch of what I just said is allegedly, because apparently, according to the representatives of Snoop Dogg, he did not actually say that. In a way, they backed away from that apology, in which it states right here, continuing forward, despite being posted from Snoop's verified Instagram account, a legal rep asserts to Deadline that neither the hip-hop artist or anyone from his team wrote the comment. It is a fake, says a rep from Snoop Dogg. So no, apparently Snoop Dogg didn't actually say that he apologized for his comments on Lightyear, and now he is pretty much a laughingstock just for the fact that he said that he is scared of Lightyear. He is scared of the fact that now there is a lot of LGBTQ plus representation in animation and kids media now. Now, the first thing that I just want to go and have this out of the way, and I just need to go and comment, it's just, really? We're back at this again? We're still doing that same stupid song and dance number about Lightyear and the same-sex couple existing in there? Like, we're still trying to go and make that an issue? I mean, like I said before, Lightyear, as I am recording this, is over 3 years old. Like, you can't just update the formula. You can't find anything else to go and comment. I mean, I enjoyed Lightyear myself, and even I know that there are plenty of other things that you could go and criticize about it and say that there is a problem, especially that weird plot twist villain. I mean, it's basically the same thing like what the Lego Movie 2 did with Rex Dangervest, but it's still as convoluted and confusing as it was in that film. So, like, there are many other things that you could go and comment, but are you still going back into that same-sex couple thing? And not to mention, like, if you want to go and try to update that formula or update that complaint, like, why don't you go and say, like, any other animated film that recently had LGBTQ plus representation? Like, like, you couldn't just say that about, like, Strange World or Nimona or maybe a little bit of like the Mitchells versus the Machines, even though that thing is like almost unnoticeable. Like, you can't just like switch it up a bit. No, you got to recycle that same old stupid comment that conservatives have done back in 2022. You still got to go and do that again. And by the way, I almost forgot about this, but to go and give you context about that same-sex couple thing going on in Lightyear, just to go and give you more of an understanding of like how it actually is in the movie, the only time that it was actually prominent, it was in the first act, or specifically near the end of the first act. Because around the beginning of the movie, Buzz Lightyear and Star Command, they were trying to go and test out these crystals that would allow their ship to go into hyperspeed. And Buzz really wanted to go and try to test that out. So he was the first to immediately go and do so. And by doing that test, what feels like 4 minutes for him actually ended up becoming 4 years. So you can imagine there is so much time that has passed. So from there, yes, it was quite a shock for the for Star Command, but it was also a shock for his best friend, Alicia Hawthorne. And where the factor of the same-sex couple appears is the fact that during that scene, or throughout that scene, you then go into an entire montage where Buzz is just so determined to try to go and keep at it to make the crystals work and actually go into hyperspeed with no consequence. And even though he would do that, every time he goes into hyperspeed, it would always be like 4 years later and 4 years later and 4 years later. And throughout that time, every time he revisits after every attempt, he would see like so much time would go and pass, and he would see the life of his best friend Alicia like completely go without him, where she would fall in love, she would get married, she would have a kid, she would have anniversaries, she would have like all these milestones going on, but Buzz would ultimately miss out on all that because he was just so determined to try to make the test work, to make those crystals work in his favor, to go on hyperspeed without losing so much passage of time. But he ended up doing way too much of it to the point that he missed out on his best friend's life. And I just want to go and say, like, say what you will about Lightyear, but in my opinion, I think that's like the best scene of the movie. That's honestly the best moment of the entire feature, where they really worked out not just like with the animation showing like the passage of time, and also like with Buzz trying to do the mission to go into hyperspeed and all that stuff. But there is something that's like very heartbreaking to see, like just a life all around Buzz just go without him. That for him, time is just standing still, but everyone is going through their life and just basically living like basically have accepted that they're just going to be living life without Buzz, where they would only periodically see him once every 4 years. It's a very well done scene. And even though, yes, I do agree, like the movie kind of goes a little bit downhill from there, I applaud them for doing so. And even though, like, yes, there was the LGBTQ plus representation with Alicia getting into a relationship with another woman, still, though, it is still like a subtle aspect. And I mean, it's not necessarily a big deal. It's not something that they have to justify, like, why does it have to be a woman that she has to go out with and be married to and all that kind of stuff. It's honestly a very sweet it's honestly like a very sweet thing that, like, yeah, it's a nice little piece of representation. And yeah, they're gay, but I mean, that's just life. There's gay people all around us. There's no need to have a justification of the fact that there is an LGBTQ plus couple right there. So that's why I just want to go and express my thoughts and just go and like give you the context of what that scene is. So yeah, you can imagine that with Snoop Dogg, like when he would go and see that moment, like obviously he doesn't really know what to go and say. And that right there, like the reaction that he has, that is textbook homophobia right there. Like, that is literally the definition of homophobia, that you're just scared to see a same-sex couple because you don't know how to react. You don't know what to do. And honestly, what he has displayed, it's honestly also a very prominent example of how homophobia can make you a bad parent. Because I'm not going to go and like, I'm not going to scold the kid for asking those questions. I mean, the kid is a kid, and it's very natural that the kid would go and ask those questions. That's perfectly fine. But it's Snoop Dogg's responsibility to go and answer those questions. And honestly, it's not that hard to do so. Like, you could just say like what what Lauren said, love is love, regardless of whoever gender it is. And with the aspect of the baby, I mean, honestly, that feels very easy. And you could go into any direction with that, especially with the fact that this is an animated sci-fi film. So in that regards, you can make up whatever sci-fi thing to go and make whatever crazy explanation. Or you could just go with the simple answer of adoption. You could just go and simply say adoption, and that will answer all problems right there. It's definitely easy to go and do. And yet Snoop Dogg is just put in that weird position where he just doesn't know. Like, honestly, the problem is not the movie. The problem is obviously you. And not to mention, by the way, I know a lot of people are going to go and actually bring this up. But yes, it is true that with Snoop, it does feel hypocritical that he would go and suddenly be against a same-sex couple with a girl and a girl, considering that Snoop Dogg himself actually does have a history of having lesbian couples or having two girls making out with each other throughout his career, rather it be in his music videos, or he himself has actually directed a porno where two girls are just going at it with each other. So in that regards, yeah, he's not necessarily fully against two girls being a couple, as long as it's something that's just pornographic. But I will say, though, this is honestly a moment that really does shed a light on homophobia. And honestly, that's something that I gotta say makes so much sense when you think about the mindset of homophobics, and I'll even include transphobics onto that. Because yes, there will be times when these people are going to be extremely hypocritical and they'll go and try to consume porn that is related to their phobias, rather it be if they want to go and check out like two girls making out and having sex, or you would see like a trans person involved into the porno, rather it be like pre-op or post-op or whatever. So like you'll see a lot of those hypocrisies. But the thing is, with these types of people, when it comes to homophobic and transphobic people who don't see a gay couple, or they don't see like a same-sex couple, or they don't see trans people as just people who are different, that are like, that no different than those who have like different races or different genders or whatever, for them, they see same-sex not as something, or they see like same-sex couples not necessarily as a factor of life, but they actually see that as a kink, a fetish. So with these people, they usually associate that with porn. In fact, you probably have heard the news with especially in the US, especially with red states, where they want to really go and put in a ban on porn, that they're trying to make legislatures and bills where they want to go and try to ban all the porn on the internet. And with these legislatures, they would actually go and include anything that would present LGBTQ plus themes, also including that in their anti-porn bills. And the reason why they do so is because in the minds of homophobes and transphobes, those things right there, for them, the only value that they have is just porn, especially when many of these conservatives, that's what they're secretly into. That's like kind of their secret little kink that they have. I can guarantee you that just about every Republican who is against gay rights and trans rights, they have masturbated at least once to porn that features a same-sex couple. Whether it be girl on girl or guy on guy or even trans porn, you know that they fapped to it, and maybe even more than once. You know that they are secretly into it because, again, they don't associate that as just a part of life and just people being themselves. They factor that as a fetish because for them, that's the only value that the LGBTQ plus community has for them. And it's the same thing with Snoop Dogg. For him, two girls making out, for his definition of it, that's just porn. That's just a fetish. And that's why he wasn't able to go and answer the questions to his grandkids. Because when he would go and see Alicia and Kiko Hawthorne together, he would think that, oh, this is like the porn that I regularly do. So for him, what he sees here is kind of like Pixar is making porn. Because for Snoop Dogg, he can only associate two women in love as just porn. So that's honestly the big problem with all this. And it really shows the messed up mindset with Snoop Dogg. So yeah, honestly, overall, I feel like with this whole thing that Snoop Dogg is trying to do, saying that he's so scared now of going to the movies because of his traumatic experience with Lightyear and seeing a same-sex couple going on, especially when it is two women right there. That, like, honestly, it really shows how his conservatism, much like with any Trump supporters and any Republicans out there, his conservatism is just making him absolutely weak. Especially when you know with Snoop Dogg as a rapper, he has experienced some dark stuff. Like, he has seen some nightmarish things, rather it be with drugs, rather it be with women, rather it be with even murder. But apparently, Lightyear just went too far. Apparently, that's a fear that not even Snoop himself could overcome, especially when it seems like a fear that he can't even shake off for 3 freaking years. And honestly, I personally feel like with this whole thing, you know the craziest part about all this? I feel like Snoop Dogg is actually making Lightyear look good. Like, we are now in a scenario where people are just so fed up with these anti-LGBTQ plus arguments, with all these homophobic discussions and stuff like that, that now people are actually being on the side of Lightyear and actually showing some positive reception towards that film. Like, even if the movie itself is not okay, like, some of them are like going out saying, well, at least, no, the gay couple, like, that's actually a cool thing. That's something that Pixar actually did right on this. And honestly, the more that we see, the more that we hear about this stupid argument going on again, on repeat, kind of like what Snoop Dogg is doing, then the more that I honestly feel like we're just gonna see like Lightyear speed track its way into actually being a liked animated feature. I mean, it's still gonna be some time for people to go and actually embrace Lightyear, or people are gonna open up and actually say, you know what, I actually do like Lightyear. It's better than what people make it out to be. Like, I feel like we're kind of like speed running our way through. The more that we exercise people into defending Lightyear, especially with its same-sex couple representation, then the more likely that we'll see people turn around and actually show appreciation for Lightyear. So I'm just telling you that right now. Maybe I could be wrong, and maybe like we're not going to see more people be like Snoop Dogg about it, but I'm just putting out a bit of a warning. So yeah, like, I just want to go and state that right now, that honestly, with Snoop Dogg's comments, it's just absolutely unnecessary. It just feels like Snoop Dogg is being like the cartoon community and just desperately forcing out the Disney hate when obviously it's just so uncalled for. All right, so with that said, now it is time I'm going to go onto the chat wall, and I'd like to ask you all, How do you feel about Snoop Dogg's comment about Lightyear? Do you guys agree with him? Do you guys disagree with him? Let me know what you guys think. And I know we don't necessarily have a lot of time, so I'll do the best to go through the comments over here. So let's see what we got. Who knew Snoop Doggy Dogg was such a Snoop Doggy dumbass? I will acknowledge that even though I like the movie, Lightyear has its fair share of problems. The same-sex couple is not one of them. And the fact that he swore off going to the movies because of it, it should not be telling a man 30 years older than me to grow some balls, but here we all are. This is just proof that homophobia is just another fancy synonym for stupidity. Snoop Doggy, do better. Exactly, man. And I mean, out of all the problems, if you're just going to keep hammering, if you're just going to keep going at it against if you're just going to go against the same-sex couple in Lightyear to be against the movie, then you're just making yourself look dumb, and you're honestly going to put Lightyear in a more positive light. Actually have some real criticisms instead of the existence of LGBTQ plus community, okay? There's no such thing as freaking forced diversity, so don't use that as a legitimate criticism. Let's see what we got. It was a serious red flag when Snoop was part of Trump's second inauguration, and all I can say is that I'm officially done with this hack. Now with this, I'm surprised anyone still listens to him when no one should be a long time ago. Also, are we still talking about Lightyear 3 years later? I thought we moved on from this. Just leave Lightyear alone, you guys. The movie did nothing wrong. It has the same-sex kiss scene, so it's normal. Looks like we owe Lightyear an apology now. I know it. Well, I mean, give it some time, and I'm not saying that the turnaround is going to happen immediately, but if we are going to see more of these types of complaints from people like Snoop Dogg and stuff like that about Lightyear, then I think the apology is going to be coming closer and closer. We're not there yet, but I mean, Snoop Dogg is accelerating the process. All right, let's see here. We are never going to have a meaningful discussion about Lightyear, are we? Any discussions we'll have about it is going to be hijacked by homophobic assholes talking about that kiss, isn't it? Not the story, not the characters, not the animation. It's just going to be homophobes complaining about the kiss and nothing else. I never liked Snoop's music, and now I no longer like him as a person. Power to Evelyn Dever, Officer Spencer, and Alicia Hawthorne. Pixar lesbians for life. Wait, is Evelyn Dever actually a lesbian? Did they actually confirm that? I don't know. I never saw that, or I never heard any comments where people mention that she is a lesbian or if she's into girls. I mean, like, sure, she may look the part, but I don't know. I never thought of that. Let's see now. Let's see. I don't have anything to say but to infinity and not beyond for Snoop Dogg for getting angry over watching a movie with his grandson over him asking questions about a woman being in love with another woman and having a kid. I will give the screenwriter credit for giving a reason why it was in the movie, and the person who was asking the question is a kid, and he is still learning, and Snoop Dogg just doesn't know that it's his problem, not the movie and the kids' media with that topic itself. All right, I think I only have time for one more comment here. So, all right, I think I'll go. Yeah, I'll go with. I'll go with the. Screw it, I'll go with this one. Like AVGN said to Snoop Dogg, wow, what an asshole. There's nothing wrong with showing the theme, and there is nothing to complain about the movie. I don't know why he is scared, since there are other types of movies that made people refuse to watch, like Terrifier films, which make people sick. Also, he is a supporter of the orange guy, and he has unquestionable cases in the past. Marlon Wayans came forward by saying that Snoop Dogg is the Hollywood agenda is trying to make kids empathetic, not gay. Exactly, man. Honestly, like, if you're really going to be complaining about the fact that there's a same-sex couple, you might as well be complaining about the fact that there's a black character in Lightyear also.